Today we're tackling something really fundamental, the whole concept of the right to life.
Absolutely key.
And to get into this, we're focusing on just one source today. It's a transcript from another discussion, actually, called The Right to Life, What Does It Mean? Our aim, really, is to pull out the main ideas from that source about this, critical human right.
Yeah.
You know, where it comes from, the problems it faces, how law recognizes it.
And what jumps out right away, I think, from this source material is that it doesn't box the right to life into just like a legal category.
Right.
It paints a much broader picture. We're talking human, ethical, even touching on divine principles.
That's a really strong way to start, isn't it? It sets it up as something inherent.
Exactly.
Something that exists from, and the source uses this phrase, the first moment of existence.
The first moment.
Allowing for a life with, dignity and safety. Okay, so let's dive into the core points the source makes.
Well, it kicks off by noting something quite remarkable.
Which is?
This convergence, this agreement between what it calls divine laws and these man-made or positive laws, they seem to land on the same basic point.
That is interesting. How does the source sort of bridge that gap between, religious ideas and legal systems?
It suggests that, look, whether you're looking at ancient religious teachings or modern legal frameworks developed over centuries, there's this common thread, this shared sense that fundamentally one person can't just unjustly end another person's life.
So like a universal value.
It implies that, a kind of universal recognition that human life itself has value.
And the text tries to ground this idea, doesn't it? It points to actual legal documents, global and national.
It does. It brings up Article 3 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
The UDHR, foundational stuff.
Right, and the source quotes it directly. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person.
Life, liberty, security, all together.
And the insight the source offers here is that putting life first, right alongside liberty and security in that huge post-World War II document, well, it really underscores its importance.
How so?
It suggests life is the prerequisite, the foundation upon which all other rights like liberty and security are built. Without life, the others are. They're meaningless.
Makes sense. And then it brings it down from the international level to a specific country, right? It mentions Sudan.
Yes, the Sudan Constitution of 2005, specifically Article 28.
Article 28, what does it say?
It states, every person has the right to life and liberty and shall not be arbitrarily deprived of them.
Not be arbitrarily deprived. Seems pretty clear-cut.
It sounds clear-cut, but this is where the source immediately brings in a complication, a tension.
Okay.
It basically says, while the law on paper looks strong, shall not be arbitrarily deprived. The actual situation, the reality people face, can be very, very different.
So this is where it gets into the difficult part. The gap between the ideal and the real.
Exactly. The source is quite blunt about it. It says, look, despite these legal guarantees, violations happen. They're a harsh reality.
Does it give examples?
It does, and they're sobering. Things like people being killed during protests.
Right.
Individuals facing execution, but without, a proper, fair trial process first. Or, tragically, people dying under torture while they're in state custody.
Wow. So the rights are there in the Constitution, but in practice?
They're violated. And this really points to that critical gap, doesn't it, between the legal words and what actually happens, the enforcement.
Yeah.
The source does acknowledge that, even within Sudanese criminal law itself, there are explicit rules against killing, both intentional killing and unintentional.
So the laws to punish these acts exist?
Yes. According to the source, the criminal code defines different types of killing and sets out quite strict penalties for them.
Okay, so the legal tools are there, the definitions, the consequences.
They are in place, But, and this is the crucial point the source keeps coming back to, it emphasizes that, quote, violations still happen on the ground.
Despite the laws.
Despite the laws. And this seems to lead directly into the core message the source really wants us to grasp.
Which is what, fundamentally?
That this right to life, it isn't some kind of gift or privilege handed down by a government or, any authority figure.
It's not granted.
Exactly. It's described as natural, inherent, something you possess just because you exist, because you're human.
That distinction feels really important. It's not something external that can be taken away, theoretically.
It's intrinsic, part of you.
Right. And the source kind of finishes with almost a call to action, doesn't it? Aimed right at the listener, at you.
It really does. It heavily stresses how important it is to be aware, to understand your rights.
Not just vaguely know they exist.
No, really know what the law actually says. And then, crucially, demanding those rights if they're under threat.
And seeking out.
And speaking out against injustice when you see it. The source basically argues, look, the law's there, it's written down, but it's real power. That only gets unlocked when people actually know about it and are prepared to stand up and assert it.
Okay, so if we kind of step back and look at the journey this source took us on, we started with these deep roots. It presented divine ethical thought, then saw how that's reflected in big international statements like the UDHR.
And then grounded in specific national law, using Sudan's constitution as that concrete example.
But importantly, the source didn't just leave it there on paper.
No, absolutely not. It forced us to confront that tension. The clear legal rules, like Sudan's criminal laws against killing with set penalties,
versus the grim reality of violations. The examples it gave: killings at protests, executions without fair process, deaths under torture.
It brings you face to face with that gap.
And throughout, it kept hammering home that central idea from the text. This right isn't bestowed upon you, it's natural, it's inherent, just part of being alive.
Yeah. And the source puts a huge emphasis on the role of awareness in all this. Knowing your rights, finding the courage to demand them, speaking up.
It frames the law's effectiveness as really depending on people knowing it and using it.
Exactly. The law needs to be activated, essentially.
Which really leaves you, the listener, with something to think about, doesn't it? If the right to life is something you just have, inherently, naturally, and it's also written down, protected explicitly in law, meant to stop violations.
Yeah.
Then what does this discussion, this source, focus on, the gap between that law and the reality?
Yeah.
What does that tell us about rights themselves? And maybe more personally, what role could being informed, being vocal about your rights actually play in trying to bridge that gap and making that legal protection more than just ink on a page?
Yeah.